Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome back to another traditional or best of three draft of Aetherdrift. I still have not gotten the achievement for winning a round of best of three after losing the first game. We've played a couple of these traditional drafts. I've 3-0'd one of them for max prize out, but we never had that exact situation come up. So hopefully within one of the games today, or one of the rounds today, I should say, we can lose that first game, win the next two. But we'll see. We're going to have a sweet draft either way because our Pack 1 Pick 1 is a great rare, a Draconautics Engineer, probably the strongest red card in the format. It's a 2-mana 2/2 and a 4-mana 4/4 flyer, all off of just one card, as long as, of course, it sticks around long enough for you to activate that exhaust ability. Not only that, it even has some more upside outside of that. It's got a second exhaust ability. You can put a +1/+1 counter on it and give all of your other creatures haste till end of turn. So if you wait till like turn 5, you could spit out the dragon and give the dragon haste in the same turn. This card is really sweet and the strongest reason to be in red, so we are going to likely start in that color here. For pick 2, we've got a pretty sweet uncommon that I think plays quite well in red decks. That's the Scrounging Skyray, one of the big reasons to go for blue-red, as the blue-red archetype in the format is a cycling deck that can get benefits from cycling cards, which means discarding them to draw cards, or just discarding cards in any other way. So I like the Skyray as a great place to go if we want to really stick to our rare here. Going blue-red makes a lot of sense, and the only red cards in the pack are quite mediocre, so we're definitely not just going to stick mono-colored for now. However, there is some big competition just because of how powerful green is in the format. Migrating Ketrodon is just an insane common, plays very equivalent to the level of a super powerful uncommon like a Skyray or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ketrodon is just the strongest card in the pack, but I think Skyray opens us up to a pretty powerful synergistic path that we could take here, going for a blue-red cycling deck. So I'm going to take that here, see if it works out. Wow, does it ever. Pick 3, we see a Thopter Fabricator, a very powerful blue rare. This makes us pretty confident that the two players on our right that passed this to us were not interested in playing blue off of their first 2 picks. Now, they could always end up pivoting into the color later, but I think there's almost no blue cards more powerful than Thopter Fabricator in the format. So this is a really excellent sign that at least from these 2 players, we'll be getting past some more blue cards throughout Pack 1, and Pack 3 as well will get passed from the same direction. Plus, of course, it's a synergistic rare for the direction that I've already speculated on going, which is blue-red cycling. Every time we cycle a card during our turn, that will be our second card drawn for the turn, and we'll get a 1/1 Thopter with flying. I guess technically the first time we cycle a card during our turn, that'll be the second card draw. Got to make sure not to spam like 3 cycling cards in one turn. That'll play pretty poorly. So pick 4. I somehow have never seen this before. For some reason, I thought we were already in the like Alchemy Aetherdrift draft queues or something, because I was like, what is this? It doesn't look super great, so that's probably why it was pretty forgettable. But there's a Push the Limit here. This is a really fun one that plays well in a cycling deck. It's a lot of mana. It's a super late game play, but there are a lot of vehicles with cycling, and so we're going to naturally be drafting those to cycle them for our cards like Thopter Fabricator and Scrounging Skyray, and that'll make it so top decking a Push the Limit in the late game could just find lethal out of nowhere. It can reanimate all of those common 6/3 Menace vehicles, all of the common 4/4 flying vehicles, and auto-crew them all, get a big haste swing, and end the game. So it's a really fun finisher. Hole Drifter might be the more consistently good card, but Push the Limit is just the kind of spice that I have a lot of fun with, so I'm going to try it out here. Pick number 5, Lightning Strike, quite an easy pick here, although Memory Guardian also pretty decent. Lightning Strike's a little weaker in this format than most just because the strongest color is green by far. You're going to run up against a lot of green decks. This is pretty weak against green, but it's quite solid against any other deck. Green just has stuff that's so beefy. There's so little or so few cards in green with less than 4 toughness. It's kind of absurd. So pick 6, again, just because of how prevalent green is and how big some of the creatures can get, sometimes even in non-green decks. There's some pretty big creatures. I think that makes Flood the Engine actually look a little more exciting than Lightning Strike, especially considering there's very few ways to blow up enchantments in this format, so that does make the card a little bit more powerful. There is a Howler's Heavy, though. This is a really excellent, really efficient cycler just for synergy purposes, but I really don't want to be left left without a paddle here, so to speak. I don't know. I don't know what kind of metaphor I'm trying to go with there, but I don't want to be left without removal. I think removal is incredibly, incredibly important in the format. So pick 7's a pretty weak pack. We can take a random mediocre cycler. I guess this can help us cast artifacts or cycle cards, so Optimizer technically does stuff. It also can pay for exhaust abilities like that on Draconautics Engineer. I mean, either of these is pretty mediocre. Stall Out is basically exclusively just for the cycling. But I don't know, I'm not in love with Optimizer, and we do want to have a really high cycling count if we can. Although Hull Drifter can still trigger the cards like Thopter Fabricator, as well as potentially play well with the push the limit here, so I like Hull Drifter. The Midnight Mangler is also kind of fun. Oh, this is the one raceway that's actually relevant in blue-red. It is going to make your mana base a little bit worse having to run a colorless land, but triggering all of your discard cards, all of your draw cards with that ability in the late game when you run out of stuff does work decently as archetype. It is actually kind of valuable. I'm still going to go Hull Drifter. I think that card is quite solid, but this is the one archetype I would be interested in a Vishkar Raceway. Pick 9, that is the Clamorous Ironclad I was talking about. It's all sad to see in the same pack as another vehicle that we can cycle, because obviously with the push the limit, we want to clump up on these, get a ton of them. But the Ironclad is probably the best one. It cycles for only 1 mana. When we push the limit with it, we have a 6 power menace creature on that hasty attack. It's a huge, huge deal. Pick 10, Trip Up is a genuinely great cycling card, because it's a fine tempo removal spell for the mana cost, just hard casting it with the cycling attached, whereas a lot of the cycling cards can be just like really mediocre, like Wreck Remover here. Scrap Compactor's fine here if we are worried about removal, but I've got Lightning Strike, Flood the Engine, and Trip Up, so I think I'm doing really good on the removal counts here to take Dismal Backwater to potentially splash, or just take another cycler. I'm just going to take another cycler. I think our archetype looks open enough to just stick 2 color here and not have to speculate on fixing. Like, I will be sad if I open an incredible black mythic or something and end up splashing and don't have that duel, but I think the odds are low enough to just take the fine cycler there. Okay, this pack is quite weak. I guess Adrenaline Jockey's okay? This is a 3-mana 3/3. When we exhaust our Draconautics Engineer, it gets a counter. It's mainly a 3-mana 3/3. But I'm not in love with Specialists or Stall Outs. Those are the only other on-color cards. We are not going to be able to splash in a double off-color rare. So, let's see. Let's put non-creature spells in a pile. Let's put cards that we're just only going to be cycling in a pile. Okay, this is kind of the curve here. Yeah, I guess just a random 3-mana 3/3 is probably fine. Pretty big miss of a pack, though. This is a big hit, though. We find a second copy of the Scrounging Sky Rage to just be a big flying attacker, trying to close out the game with a bunch of counters on it. Pick number 3. Another Flood the Engine is fine, but there's also a Fuel the Flames. Kind of an exciting cycling card. It's definitely a good one to have in the sideboard in like best of 3. I don't think there's a ton of decks where 2 creatures is super, super good, because again, the format's a bit slower and chunkier. It's more based on the bigger creatures than really wide board states of small creatures for the most part. But in the right matchup, this card could be pretty good. I feel like Flood the Engine's probably more consistently good for just like any matchup, though. I'm just going to take the Flood the Engine. Pick 4, Road Rage here, really efficient removal over that Flood the Engine. Copy 3. I mean, it's debatable, again, because of how chunky the creatures can get. And we're not going to have a whole bunch of mounts and vehicles. Actually, an okay amount. A Fabricator or Hull Drifter, we could randomly cast an Ironclad as well. Push the Limit does make me want to draft more too. Yeah, Road Rage is probably actually a pretty chunky amount of damage for just the 1 mana. Another Trip Up here over Tyrox, which is fine. Pick 6. Man, Ketrodon, Pact Altair, really nice Golgari coming from this direction. But Skystreak Engineer is still pretty strong. Pick 7, there's a Howler's Heavy. There's also the Ironclad, though, and I do have that push limit, so I'm going to take the Ironclad here. That's other cycling card that lets you exchange 2 permanents. That helped me win a collector booster box of Aetherdrift on this channel, so I'm a little partial to that as well. Probably like it more than most players at this point. Take a Crash and Burn here. It's a fine removal spell. Be pretty low on creatures, but the amount of just cheap removal like Road Rage and Lightning Strike that I have can help replace early game creatures. This is how we impact the board in the early game. We just keep our opponent's stuff off the board. Yeah, I've got 4 2-drops without a Prowl Catcher, so I'll take a Stall out. Just add to the cycling nonsense pile. Glitch Ghost Surveyor's fine. Pretty filler, but I do like that once it's in your grave and you have that max speed, you can exile it to draw a card, trigger your Fabricator. That's another thing that we did in the event where we won the collector box. It's been like only a few days since I won the Aetherdrift booster box, and I feel like this deck is just trying to go down nostalgia road. It might be a little weaker for it, because again, we saw a bunch of good Golgari during this pack too. So maybe somewhere in that direction would end with the most powerful deck in the pod. But this will be a nice little trip down memory lane. We've now got a Howler's Heavy here. That's going to be real nice. Night Market would be great too. We did open an Afterburner Expert, so yeah, if I could see the future and knew what rares we were going to open and everything, being in green would have been awesome in this pod. Afterburner Expert is absurd. Just constantly coming back to the graveyard, or from the graveyard to the battlefield every time you exhaust. The card's pretty ridiculous, but Howler's Heavy is really nice in this archetype. It's a little combat trick that also triggers all your cycling nonsense. Pack 3, pick 2. We got a solid removal spell with Outpace Oblivion, another solid removal spell with Flood the Engine, or a really good 5-drop with Spike Shell Harrier. I think double Flood, double Trip Up, Lightning Strike, Road Rage. I can afford to take the most powerful card here. Despite the fact that it's not removal, Spike Shell Harrier is just a really good tempo play, especially in a format where, again, the big green beefy stuff gets really hindered by this. If your opponent plays like a Hazard, I mean, God forbid they exhaust something like that, spend so much mana, and then you just put it right back in their hand for a turn. Really, really good tempo play. Force them to recast that and dump all their mana back into re-exhausting. But it's solid against other decks as well. I mean, it's obviously great against tokens. You play this, kill a token, lower your opponent's speed, all that. Pack 3, pick 3, we see a Marauding Mako and a Gastel Thrill Roller. They're both pretty awesome for this deck. I mean, they both have synergy too, because this technically discards 1 card to come back from the grave to the battlefield at a later point. I just think the Mako's so perfect, having that plus double Skyray, really getting that stuff going. But also, this is like a vehicle for Push the Limit. The problem is, this is like technically a vehicle for Push the Limit, but it has its own built-in way to recur itself that exiles it, because it gives it a finality counter. So if we just recur that rare vehicle 1 time, it's going to get exiled to its own ability, and then we can't push the limit it anyway. Pick 4, another Trip Up, I think, over Scrap Compactor, Prowl Catcher. I mean, definitely, we've got 3 of the +1/+1 counter cyclers now, so we're taking the cycling synergy pieces quite highly. Pick 5. I'm probably going to have to cut the Push the Limit. I don't think it really panned out. We have 2 Ironclads and then just like our natural vehicles. If those trade off, if those get blown up or countered or something, they could theoretically come back, but I don't think this whole plan is going to work out. We might still play the Ironclads just for the 1-mana cyclers, but Push the Limit, maybe that's a sideboard option for if we're playing against some deck that has one of like mill win conditions or something. I feel confident enough in my cycling count to not take another insanely mediocre one like Stall Out, so I'm just going to grab a 2-drop creature there with the Gilded Goda. Pick 6, another Howler's Heavy, but the Field of Flames is interesting as well, considering we are best of 3. But I think Howler's Heavy, just being that combat trick that triggers all the cycling stuff, is really nice. Like, if you have this as a combat trick with a Mako or a Skyray on board, it's a really good combat trick. It's 2 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, -3/-0, a different creature, draw a card. That can be a blowout in a lot of different circumstances. Okay. third Ironclad. Maybe push the limits, getting a little closer. Buccaneer solid in this deck. Discard a card, draw a card, trigger, all that kind of stuff. Pick 9. Rocky Roads. I've actually got a pretty solid vehicle count towards that coming in untapped. Thopter's just a solid card up front. I think I do take that over the Raceway. I think we're doing really good on cyclers to not need the cycling mana. This is all pretty whatever. I think I'm going to get in the skies more with this Glitch Ghost Surveyor. Just Spell Pierce for the side. And some more nonsense. All right. The blue-red cycling deck. We definitely can cut a couple lands because we have a ton of cards in this deck that our turn 2 plan is always going to be just discard this and draw the next card in our deck, which means we immediately peek at the next card, get a little bit closer to the next land. So let's stack up all the cards that I'm perfectly happy to just cycle rather than cast. I think... Oh, there's the Ironclads. Yeah, all those. I think those are all of them. Nope, stall out as well. But Sky Rays and Makos, they technically can cycle, but we don't want to do that really at all. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cards that we're going to be cycling at 2 or less mana towards drawing the next card. So I'm just going to like cut 2 lands right off the bat. That makes Push the Limit more difficult as a 7-drop in a 15-land deck. But again, we're drawing a lot of cards towards the next land. But I'm also unsure about how consistent this is. We only have 3 vehicles that cycle. But technically, casting a Push the Limit, even with just like 3 Ironclads in Grave, is still really terrifying. That's not always going to be the case, though, obviously. I only have 2 vehicles outside of the Ironclads to trade off or discard to a Buccaneer or anything. I really don't think we quite got there on Push the Limit, but it is a very fun win condition to try. Go to feels like the weakest 2-drop in the deck. Adrenaline Jockey works with a grand total of 2 cards in our deck. Draconautics Engineer and Skystreak Engineer. I mean, it does still shoot our opponent if they cast stuff during our turn. I guess that's like another sideboard option mostly. Here in best of 3. We have to cut 7 cards, so I have to be like really picky here. It's just maybe like Surveyors, maybe even another land. 14. A little bold, but again, we are cycling all day long. Yeah, I still have to cut 1 more card, even cutting another land and cutting all those. I guess the Skystreak Engineer is a pretty low creature count, but again, we're like cycling towards the creatures. Fabricator is basically a creature. It's going to spit out a whole army. And these are technically creatures, right? If we're in a pinch, we can just cast these later in the game. So that helps too. Yeah, I think I can drop Engineer. All right, sure. 14 land, full-on blue-red pure cycling deck here. This will be a pretty fun one. Let's double-check the mana base before we hop into things. 16 blue cards and 8 red. Let's go 8 blue, 6 red sources then. I don't need double red ever. Technically, for 5 mana, get the 4/4 dragon, give everybody haste. That is a double red ability we do have in this deck, but it's really not necessary for Engineer to still be quite powerful, just making the dragon in the first place. So, yeah, this looks pretty solid to me. Looks really fun, quite interesting, and it is just finicky and concerning enough that I think this can lose some game 1s. So we could lose a game 1 and try to win the next 2 games. We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out for us as we hop into the gameplay. All right, here we are for game 1 on the draw. This is a 1-lander. That's going to be a mulligan then. Okay, this one, 4 lands here. So we ditch one of those and we can cast everything in the hand. Boop. Play our Rocky Roads turn 2. Ooh, softer Fabricator coming up. I would not hate just holding on to Mako for once the Fabricator's down, but that's probably worse than just running it out here. Pass turn. So I'm getting a million calls. Down to 18. Scrounging Skyray is the draw. That's a really solid one. Let's send the attack in, holding up the mana to do some nonsense. If we need to. Okay, and just drop the Fabricator and start cycling stuff. So probably cast Skyray, cycle Trip up next turn. Be sad to see spin out from our opponent to destroy the Fabricator. But that is not a spin out, that's a Far Fortune. Still a strong card. Really scary once they hit max speed. It's going to start adding an additional damage every time they ping us. So Goda would hit for 3. Far Fortune would hit for 2 off of the attack trigger. Pretty concerning stuff. I get a lot of value off just cycling once here. I get the chump blocker. Their engines are going to keep going up even if I get rid of Far Fortune. Oh, I feel like I hold up a lot on blocks here. To just go for this and try to find a permanent solution to Far Fortune rather than just put it back on top of their deck. They can still probably get their engines up. And it's still a massive issue I have to deal with soon enough. Okay. I'm going to poke for 2 here. It's a crew 2. Oh, it's a crew 2. Okay. Okay, this is definitely a combat trick. So I'm not going to put Fabricator in any danger here. Force the trick onto the Skyray. I could also just take the 2. There's no world where they attack with Goda without the trick. Yeah, that's oops. That's not suspicious at all. Skyray. I don't have any more cycling here in this hand. But I've got the 1 Buccaneer to make this a 3/4. Yeah, I mean, if they spend some mana on the combat trick here, prevents them from flooding out the board with more creatures. So I'm just going to leave it there. We'll trade Skyray into the trick. Oh, it's a genuine oops. It's an actual oops. You'll love to see it. I'm not gonna lie, the second they said oops, I was 100% confident they had the combat trick. Before that, I was just like 75% sure. That's wild. They threw out the oops and didn't have it. Maybe it was the double bluff. They were like, well, if I say oops, they're gonna think that I'm trying to trick them. Magic is a wild game. 3/4 and a 3/3 up on blocks. Goodbye Thopterus then. Not ditching this Draconautics Engineer. And I still want to dig for like flood the engine on this Far Fortune. There we go. Crash and burn works too. So we'll deal with the Far Fortune next turn. I think I'm holding up blocks this time. I don't want Far Fortune to jam at my face again. Hopefully we can just force them into a chump attack, trigger the Far Fortune to get to max speed, lose the Goda. Far Fortune does trigger off of any creature attacking, not just Far Fortune, so they can chump attack with Goda. Alright, well, it's going to be another instant speed removal spell so that they can trade 1 removal spell into 2 of our creatures here. Like if it's another, not Siphon Fuel, but like Spin Out or Lightning Strike, They get to kill Buccaneer and Mako if I double block, and I have the Crash and Burn here anyway. I don't think they would make this attack without another instant speed removal, so I'm going to do the Chump here. Like, I know I have the Crash and Burn, so I don't need to risk playing into the spin out with a double block. The spin out or the lightning strike or anything like that. Marshall's Path Cruiser, alright. So they don't have to cast any removal or combat tricks there, so they tap out for the mana source. Cool. There's a trip up. If I cycle trip up, top deck a land, I can do both these things, and that is kind of exciting, but I don't think I should do that. I think I should just go for the guaranteed Crash and Burn at this point. Could hit a little harder if I crew Fabricator, but I'd rather play around like Ride's End here for 1 and a white that exiles a tapped creature. And just chill with the Fabricator. 3/4 blocker is going to be good enough unless they crew Path Cruiser. That will be a little painful, but Path Cruiser, we can trip it up on a specific turn and be fine. Cool. And Crash and Burn. Cyclone Artillerist, ping me for 1, I'm down to 12. Well, I think technically if they responded to the removal with that, they would have hit me for 1 more. Bomb Descendant, that's really spooky. With the engines fully started, that drains us for a life whenever any of their creatures dies. Yeah, we're still going to have problems here. Definitely still have issues. I think I am back to playing fully on the defensive. I'm about to get jammed for 6 by the Path Cruiser too, because they just put 4 power out this turn. My lord. They have to tap 3 of their creatures to crew Path Cruiser, so it is not insignificant. Almost completely tapped out. I think I have top decks I could hit that are lethal. But they're very, very few. Right, I'd have to have something to get the Wicker Folk out of the way and crew Fabricator, and that would be 10 damage. They're at 13. No, probably like close to lethal, but not quite. Okay, I could play an Engineer, trip up, cycle a trip up, and Road Rage something. Ascendant's ability is a really huge issue, so I think I have to Road Rage the Ascendant. I need a red and a 1 and an extra red, so let's pay like this and see what trip up finds. Another red source. I could hold this in hand. May have other ways to draw a card, discard a card in the stack. I'm going to double check. If I don't, I'll just play this. I don't. We've already played all our cards that discard something else from our hand. So, I can Road Rage Ascendant while they're tapped out. I do want to play around like a Maximum Overdrive off the top or something for Indestructible. Five life, we are playing it extra safe now. If our opponent had removal on previous turns, we have had a lot of really viable targets for a while now between Fabricator and Mako, so I'm going to run out the Engineer now to have all my mana up next turn. Or to have more mana up next turn, so that I could, like, double exhaust it and maybe even cast something else. Or at least so I can double exhaust it. It would cost me 7 mana total to cast it, get the dragon, and exhaust it to give the dragon haste in the same turn, and I only have 6 mana, so I couldn't do that all in one turn unless I played the Engineer right now. Well, that's going to be attempting removal spell on Fabricator, but I have no more cycling. I have nothing in hand. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cards left in the deck that would trigger it. Literally half my deck. I mean, if they removal spell Fabricator, then they don't removal spell Engineer, though. Yeah, here we are. Okay, Engineer remains then, and I'm happy with that. Go to 4. Top deck the land anyway, so Fabricator wasn't doing anything right now. I think I have to block with this dragon. So I'm not doing the haste here. Path Cruiser's crew 5. So they could double block trade into Mako, but they can't Path Cruiser trade. Or Path Cruiser block, period. I shouldn't have played my land. By threatening to cycle here, they just couldn't block Mako at all. But now they do have the choice of the double block trade. They are going to double block trade. So we get this board empty. They've only played 5 lands this game, so hopefully they can flood a little bit here. They've only played 5 lands and they've dropped a Path Cruiser to pick up one of those. So there's probably a lot of lands left in the deck. Did they get to surveil lands? They didn't even mill any lands with Wicker Folk. Yeah, they gotta have a chunk in there, hopefully. I'll play around Grimbauble by holding this up instead of making the 1/1 right now. If I tap out to Rocky Road's a 1/1 pilot onto the board, they could Grimbauble the Engineer and kill my 3/3 with a -2/2 spell. And I would not be happy with that. Also, Engineer plus Buccaneer is a solid double block on Path Cruiser. We're blocking with 7 toughness that way. By having the red mana up. Spin out the dragon, let's go. They've killed half my Draconotics Engineer. A little bit up in value there. Well, now they're definitely not going to flood out. The next 2 lands they draw, they can discard and draw more cards. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, I think the plays that we're making, we're getting ahead in card advantage if our opponent ever stops hitting spells, but now we know they're not going to because of the Grease Wrench Goblin. It's an Ironclad. I mean, honestly, 6/3 Menace. Moderately spooky. They go to 6. Here's the Ironclad and the creature to crew it. I assume a Grease Wrench Goblin activation here. They took a peek at it after they drew. Like they have something they really don't need. They're not even going to try to draw into something that saves them. They're just over it. Oh, that was a close game there. All right, they are some Mardu. Start your engines, trying to hit that max speed to make Far Fortune deal extra damage, make the Embalmed Descendant drain us for life. I'm very happy with our Lightning Strikes and Road Rage in this matchup against cards like the Embalmed Descendant that are like really small but still really dangerous. Didn't look like a good Spell Pierce matchup. I mean, they have They do have 2 5-mana non-creature removal spells, and spell piercing a Path Cruiser doesn't feel bad either. Is this actually good, or is it just more cute than anything? Might be more cute. I am going to be on the draw, so being able to slow them down with something like that could be viable. If I lower like the number of top end cards we have and just go really low. Maybe some of the most filler cyclers like the stall outs. I could trade like stall outs for spell pierces, I think, and still have a good chunk of cycling in this deck. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like super specifically great here, but I kind of want to try out spell pierces. That does seem pretty cute. So we'll go spell pierces for the game on the draw here. Game number 2. I failed to get the achievement. I won the first game. That's going to feel extra bad when we go 1 and 2. It's like, no, my opponent got the achievement. All right, Bloodfell Caves starts things off from our opponent. We've got the early Lightning Strike, and we drew into the Fabricator as well. This hand was a keep because it had it had 3 mana, both of our colors, 2 removal spells between Lightning Strike and Flood the Engine. So drawing into the Fabricator is just the icing on the cake here. Gastal Thrillseeker. Yeah, we're on the draw here. They're on the aggressive. I'm fine to just strike that thing while I have the mana up for it. Just want to slow them down and not take any hits while I set up the Fabricator. 2 cyclers in hand for that card. I even have a 1-mana cycler, so I can flood the engine their next play and cycle Ironclad in the same turn. I really actually hope they have Far Fortune now, but Pact Altair is still really scary. Draining us for a life turn over turn over turn, so I'm fine to flood the engine on that. Give me a 1/1 flyer. Look for the 5th land. This is a Spell Pierce. That's pretty cute. Spell Pierce is good with exhaust abilities like Buccaneer, because I can do this at instant speed, so hold up the Spell Pierce. If I don't need to use it, just use the Buccaneer's ability instead. The only issue is Buccaneer's not going to trigger Fabricator if I use it during my opponent's turn, but it is still a cute synergy for sure. Wickerfolk hits the board, mills a Plains, and then there's a Leonin Surveyor as well. There's a Trip Up and a Wreck Remover. I can only cycle 1 towards a Thopter, because I can't get 2 in 1 turn. I am going to cycle 1. If I hit an untapped land, I get to play Buccaneer as well, and if not, I can just hold up Spell Pierce, still have the 4/4 Fabricator blocker up, and most of their removal we've seen would be expensive enough that I can crew Fabricator and then just Spell Pierce the removal on blocks here. Okay, I did hit the mana. Do I just play Buccaneer then? Or still hold up the Spell Pierce? I think I'm just going to play Buccaneer. But now I'm not in the market of crewing Fabricator at all. Alright, we just threatened the 2/3 blocking the 2/2. They're pretty locked in for maximum speed at this point. We know that their deck's going to have cards to damage us even without declaring the attack. So if they attack with Wickerfolk, I'm not going to chump with a flyer. I'm not going to put Fabricator at risk. I'm just going to let them get max speed because they're guaranteed to get it by the end of this game regardless. But I will force them to do something about the Buccaneer block here. That seems fine. Sure. Trade into the Lightning Strike. Go to 17. They're at max speed. But again, cards like Far Fortune, Pact Altairs, anything like that would get them from 3 to 4, even if I blocked every point of damage for the rest of this game. It's another Flood the Engine. Cycle a Trip Up. Can cycle a Trip Up, hold up a Spell Pierce. If I draw any land, I can flood the engine and still hold up the Spell Pierce. I don't really want to flood any of these creatures, though. Not particularly excited about Harrying any of them either. but having the 4/4 out would be fine. I'm still at 17. I think I can play it a little slow and just go for the cycle value. Oh, I do hit the land. Okay. Yeah. Specialist is a 4/3, so even a Fabricator doesn't block that. I'll flood that and pierce whatever they do to Fabricator. Although now they have enough mana, if it's a spin out, they'd be able to afford it. But Siphon Fuel, no. And we know they have 2 copies of Siphon Fuel. At least. Far Fortune. That's a creature spell. Well, that's a bummer. Now we Harrier that. Which does lower their speed and force them to chump attack to raise it again, which is cute. Unless they find another Pactol Terror type card. If Spell Pierce ends up not countering anything, which it's starting to lean towards that, we're getting late enough in the game that they're going to have a lot of lands out. I'll probably just never cite it in again, because this looked like a matchup for Spell Pierce. Because we were going to be on the defensive this game, on the draw, and we know they have a bunch of like 5-mana removal, but it looks like it still might not be relevant here. Basically a mulligan. It's actually a hard choice between casting Skyray or just cycling it. I think because they have a resolved 4 Fortune out and we don't have any removal in hand, I have to just cycle it. Okay, if I cycle Ironclad in the same turn, I don't get the Thopters, so I think we just wait. Although, I mean, the 6/3 blocker is kind of legit. Crew 3 is a lot, but I mean, our board is a lot. We can actually crew it here. Yeah, just have that up on blocks to trade into anything on the ground. Keeps the first strike off of us too. Because its toughness is higher than the first striker's power. Wreck Remover. It's another creature spell, so sure. They'll gain a life here. Still not at max speed, and they pass back to us, where we find a second Ironclad. Yeah, just put it out. Land number 6 from opponent. They still can't afford to pay for a Spell Pierce against the Siphon Fuel. But that's not what they have here anyway. Here's Embalmed Descendant. Oh, and they're just done. They're just bored out of it, I guess. Alright, I'll take it. It's a big board stall. I'm sitting here making Thopters and stuff, so... It's just not their kind of game of Magic, and they're out of here. I guess we win that one. 2-0 in the first round. Spell Pierce did literally nothing, so it is going to take me a lot to sideboard that in future rounds, but we'll see how things play out. We start things off 2-0, a victory in round 1, heading into round number 2. Here we are on the play for round number 2. I don't love that I gotta do some cycling to find the blue source before I play the Skyray, but I think the hand is solid here with the cheap Road Rage removal, the cycling to get towards the blue source, and of course, more blue sources than red in the deck means we should get there pretty quickly, but we're drawing more blue spells instead of blue sources. Things are starting awkward here, but I can still cycle a Wreck Remover next turn. As soon as we get to blue, we're pretty happy. Road Rage their first play to slow them down, give us more time to cycle stuff towards the mana. I've got a Lightning Strike as well. If I top deck the blue source off Wreck Remover, I don't even get to use it right now, so I think I hold up Lightning Strike and cycle Wreck Remover during their end step. The one reason to maybe still cycle Remover now and play the island right now would be then I could Buccaneer and discard this mountain later. But again, anything they play, I gotta just burn that away to slow down this game. Double blue spell off the top. Hey, there we go. Never didn't have it. Scrounging Skyray has hit the board after I've cycled 4 different cards. Pretty sad. 3 different cards, actually. But it's here. There's Packthall Terror from our opponent. There's Trekonautics Engineer from us. Okay. It's going to be painful, because we don't have any blocks for Terror. I don't have any cycles for Skyray. I could hard cast Howler's Heavy just to hold the Terror off of us, I guess. That honestly might be the state we're in right now. Buy us time to get the mana for Engineer and Hull-Drifter. These are really big plays that we need to get some time for, ideally. 6 mana lets me play the Engineer and get the Dragon immediately. Not have to worry about removal from opponent. There's Flood the Engine on Spike Spitter. Stop them potentially drawing a bunch of cards off of it. Sure. Feels a little bit better than shooting the Packthall Terror. Not a ton, but a little bit. Because Packthall Terror also has really good ability, but that one also has reach, so we wouldn't be getting any Skyray chips in either. Momentum Breaker. Well, goodbye, Skyray. Well, maximum overdrive or something. But I'd way rather they throw a trick at Howler's Heavy than anything else we have in this hand. Pedal to the Metal. Okay, so that would kill anything. Bunch of extra power in first strike. Okay, that is the mana I need to Hull-Drifter or Buccaneer and activate. I don't want to discard any of this stuff to Buccaneer, though, so I think I'm just going to take another 3 next turn from Terror. And the Hull-Drifter works towards the next mana. Find Heavy and Ironclad, so some Cyclers. For any of those synergy cards we draw into. Our opponent drops Paste Setter Paragon. That can hit as a double striker next turn. That's pretty nasty. It's the 6 mana I need to just immediately get a Dragon off Engineer, which is great. I think we're just going to do that. Yeah, that's by far our best way to get blocks up here. 2/2 and a 4/4 off 1 card. Now they can only attack with Paragon, and Paragon would just be a trade for the flyer anyway. Again, this is all if they don't have like another trick. Okay, I guess they have another trick. We'll see. If they have the bounce off, that's going to be particularly sad. Kill the dragon for 1 mana. Oh, they're not even blue. What am I talking about? Spin out is fine, actually. Still get the engineer value. Okay. Double block the Packthall Terror. It is technically a 2-for-1 here, but I also made them discard a spin out. I also drew 2 cards off the Hull-Drifter, and we're definitely on the back foot, so I'm going to take this trade. They've got 1 creature left, but we are down to 10. 1 creature, 1 card in hand. Oh, no cards in hand. I mean, I guess 1, because they activate Surveyor. Cool. I think we can find a way to stabilize from here. Let's see what we get. Buccaneer. Draw, discard a card. No, not double blue. Why on earth would you double blue, Arena? Oh, it's so infuriating. We'll just be casting Skyray here. So just discard the mountain then. Gonna tap me on my blue anyway. I gotta stop letting auto tapper ever do anything. Well, throw a trick on my Buccaneer, I guess. Grimbobble? Nope. A Bomb Descendant. That's still really scary. Another Mardu deck. It's basically the exact same deck. Mardu, start your engines. They got the Ascendant this time. We haven't seen if they have the rare, though. Anything spooky like that. Nimble Thopterus. That's a lot of blocks. Just go for the wide board. Feels a-okay. They only have 3 power over there. Go, Buccaneer. Alright, now they've got their 6 power untapped. But I have 4 blockers. I have a vehicle to crew up. Trade off with happily. Oh, earlier the Draconautics Engineer plus Hole Drifter blocked. That wasn't even a 2-for-1, right? Because they only had 3 power. They could only kill one of the 2 creatures. So it was actually just objectively great for me. Let's keep bouncing, I suppose. I wouldn't need to throw anything else under the bus here. The Speed Demon. Okay, draw 4 cards. So, okay, it's also Flample. Even if they kill that, they got a 5-for-1 because I discard a card to kill that and they're up 4 cards. That's horrifying. Okay, that's a way scarier rare than a last opponent. I've got the Skyray here at least, and the Howler's Heavy goes pretty hard with that. We gotta start cycling this thing up and looking for removal at the same time. It is highly unlikely, but possible. We can get the Speed Demon to just kill them if I can survive long enough. Okay, well, I can just block with a... I could stall out the Speed Demon. That's pretty cute. I stall it out and then they keep drawing 4 and losing 4. Hold the phone here. Okay, I mean, they've got a gain 4 as well. Counteract some of it, but that's so cute. Because then it's still sitting there shooting them for a million, but it's also drawing them a bunch of cards they can probably use to stay stable. But this feels like a decent game plan. Like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. So I'm just gonna pray here. Oh my god, the Necro Regency, the full on. All the payoffs here. The Engine Rat, yeah, we're never getting it on the ground again, and now we have to really be worried about their counterattacks on the ground too. Take 4, gain 4, they remain at 10 here. They're essentially at 10, right? So all I need to do is hit them for 6 damage to get them down to functionally 2. which I can do on board if I can find a way to survive their next attack. So if I can top deck another 2-mana or less creature removal spell, we can probably win this. Unless they have a Ride's End in hand, that'd be brutal. Okay, we just top decked an island. I don't know if we can get there off of that. Because I can go Skyray plus 1/1 flyer to put them to essentially 4. Because again, they sack Momentum Breaker to go back to 10. Then I hit them for 6 and they're at 4. Speed Demon would kill them in the end step, but I need to then survive the next swing off of only 3 blockers. I can block Necro Regent, I can block Paragon, and I can block a 2/2. I take 1/2 damage. Yeah, that's the hope. I can't attempt lethal here. I can hit for 9, but they're at 10 because of Momentum Breaker. So it's just put them to 4 and hope Speed Demon kills them before they kill us. Yep. Okay. Cards all on the table. I mean, I guess worst case scenario, our opponent can removal spell their own Speed Demon, but that's only going to work out for them if they can removal spell their own Speed Demon and still have the cards and mana up to blow up multiple of our flyers as well. So that they don't die to us, just like crewing Fabricator and attacking with it, or, you know, if Skyray's still around, just attacking with Skyray. Pride of the Road gives something double strike each turn. That adds to the damage for sure. They've got 5 mana left. That doesn't lethal us yet. Momentum Breaker, which gains them another 4. Leaves them at 4 life when the dust settles here. I believe we actually sack Hull Drifter here. But it could be the tapped flyer. Should go for the tapped flyer. Activate Pride of the Road. Now, I probably still should have sacked Hull Drifter, because then we have a shot of, like, using these 2 flyers to crew Fabricator. So, like, for 3 mana or less, they shouldn't be able to kill Skyray and the Fabricator on the crackback. Right? We want to try our best to leave behind something to crew Fabricator. And we don't want to kill any of their creatures or they gain a life off Ascendant. Oh, no. They don't on board have any way to damage us extra here. Is there anything I can block with that just bounces off, doesn't die, but doesn't kill their card? No. I can only do chump blocks or kills here. I need to not trigger Ascendant once. I guess I can keep Thopterist around by crewing Hull Drifter here instead. I need to specifically not let them gain life. So boom, boom, boom. We kill nothing. They gain no life. And then I have 2 lethal flyers on the crackback. Because they stay at 4 at the end of the turn. They gain 4, then take 4. Unless they can sack Demon, in which case they got us. If they have exactly the removal spell, it sacks Demon and blows something else up. Oh boy. Crazy. Crazy game. Alright, Stallout is actually goated against Speed Demon. We found the best matchup. This is actually the greatest card in the format. You know, the garbage card with like a 49% win rate or something horrible. Secretly incredible in this matchup. Okay. We saw double momentum breaker, lightning strike, spin out, pedal to the metal. Another theoretically good matchup for Spell Pierce. But again, these games go long. We get to the end game and we draw the Spell Pierce later, and it's still going to be horrible even against this deck. So I don't really want to change out to that. Oh, I won the first game again. I can't get the achievement. I really don't want to get to the point that I'm so desperate I just concede round one. We can just keep playing traditional draft. I mean, it's practice for the upcoming Arena Open this weekend, so that's fine. Yeah, I'm just going to run it back here. Matchup seems fine. I don't think there's anything ridiculously bad against their deck in here. Cool. Solid opening hand. Here we got that Sky Ray to start loading up. I'll wait till I draw the card to decide what I do. I'll often just do this to try to be faster, but sometimes I end up drawing like a 1-drop and being like, oops. End Rider Catalyzer starts them off. It's not great for us, but I do have the Howler's Heavy block for it next turn. Engine Rat. I would rather Howler's Heavy block an Engine Rat than a Catalyzer. Get the Death Toucher off the board without losing a creature. If they just removal spell Sky Ray, this is going to be kind of sad, but I didn't have another play anyway. Are they going to combat trick? It's already just a trade up with the Death Toucher. Okay, that's going to be so insanely good for me. They get a double combat trick? Please do it to Engine Rat. Okay, they do it to Catalyzer. Alright. This is still awesome. We're really far ahead now. Like, I'm pretty low on life, but just blew up a ton of their cards off that. Now I just strike the only creature left, cycle the trip up and jam, turn the corner here, become the aggressor, who is way ahead on cards. Yep. Spike Shell Harrier, whatever they play next turn. I do take 3 here for not holding a blocker up. But they didn't have a creature to crew it anyway, so we're fine. Mill a couple cards, they get to pick up that rat or the Catalyzer. Cool. Does this bounce vehicles? It does bounce vehicles. Then I guess we do play it. We just want to put more stats on the board. Carrion Cruiser lets them draw another card out of their grave. But they're kind of stuck on mana here. I don't think that matters quite as much as potentially slamming for more damage off of the more efficient card. Okay, Spike Spitter. We can trip it up, they can crew in response, but crewing in response is only going to chump block this turn anyway. Sick. They did not want to chump block here, which is fair. Boom, boom. They're down to 6. Momentum Breaker. That is kind of rough here. Both of our creatures being 4/4s or better. Okay. We're definitely just casting Ironclad on this board. Six-3 Menace. They're at 2. They need the double block for that, and here's the pilot to crew it. GG from opponent. They gain back up to 4. Alright, Carrion Cruiser it is. Not gonna get there. Grease Wrench Goblin can't block the Ironclad. They're dead in the sky too. Blue-Red Cycling gets the 4-0 undefeated start to this traditional draft. And quite a positive win rate here, no matter what. Winning our first 2 rounds of 3 all the way into the final battle. Round 3 here with major prizes on the line. These traditional drafts are very top heavy, so we're currently at 1,000 gems and 3 packs no matter what. Not bad. A decent reimbursement of some of the entry fee there. But if we get a 3rd win, this is a huge one. That prize out boosts up to 2,500 gems, 6 packs, and 2 play-in points. So a lot on the line here as we head into the final battle. Here we are now for the final battle. A mono blue hand, but it has the strongest card. Well, one of the strongest cards in our deck with a Fabricator in there and plenty of cards to cycle with that. We're playing against a white deck again. First 2 rounds have been Mardu. Although they've been a lot more focused, I think, on the red and the black than the white. So this will still feel pretty different. Yeah, blue-white from our opponent. This could be a sketchy matchup. They've got the Detention Chariots in their deck to cycle away, so if they manage to pull off all the tune-ups out of the draft pod, that'll be pretty nasty. Tune-up is a 4-mana sorcery in white. It's an uncommon. It allows you to return any artifact, creature, or vehicle from your graveyard to the battlefield. And if it's a vehicle, it's just crewed permanently. So the tune-up with that lets them just spend 4 mana to get a 6/6 and exile our best creature, which is super gross. Because we're stuck off of red, I do think I should cycle one of these. Cycle the Trip Up. Although, maybe that was a little greedy. I cycled Trip Up over Howler's Heavy because I'm like, well, I'm not getting any of the damage stopping or combat tricky value off the Howler's Heavy, but if I do expect them to be a tune-up deck, which if they're blue-white and they cycle Chariot turn 1, I'm pretty heavily expecting, Trip Up is pretty good in that matchup because then you force them to actually hard cast the Chariot for 6 on a future turn after the reanimation. Plus, when you trip it up at instant speed, you get your card back at instant speed and potentially get some big blocks going, which is nice. Okay, wow. Well, at this point, we probably want to need to cycle both cards anyway. Looking for gas. I mean, I know I'm playing a Spike Shell Harrier this turn, so I think I can afford to not play the 3/4 to again get closer to the red source and get a 1/1 instead. Okay, Skyray is far from the worst draw. It's actually castable off of the other 2 mana, so that's perfectly fine. They could Scrap Compact that, but that's going to soak up most of their mana this turn. And we have nothing we can cycle for it right now just because we don't have the red mana. Oof. I'm putting in Spell Pierce. They're a deck with Possession Engine and Chariot, an incredible 5 and 6 mana vehicle. I said I'd never put it in again, but I'm putting it in. Possession Engine is nasty. I mean, Chariot's nasty too. So, a lot of scary stuff. We did hit the red source, so now I can just crash and burn the engine. And get our Skyray back. Get it back tapped anyway. But they're a blue deck. I feel like it's viable to just do this while they're tapped out. I mean, I guess they could have their own Spell Pierce. They could be just main decking Spell Pierce out here. Also, this format doesn't have counter spells for instants and sorceries outside of Spell Pierce, does it? As far as I remember, I guess maybe I actually wait. I don't know. It's not like this is going to be combat tricky or anything. Because I'm getting a tapped creature here. I'm not getting an untapped blocker or anything. I'm just going to do it now. I guess I could have waited so that, like, if they have tune-up, then they have to get Detention Chariot instead of Possession Engine, but they're both functionally the same card. This late in the game. Okay, they're just going to tap out, blow up Fabricator. That is fair. 2 cards in hand, 2 creatures on board. I think we got a shot here. I don't think I need double Ironclad. One of these is going to be perfectly fine, but I'm happy to cycle 1, see what we find, and buff Skyray, play Harrier the same turn. Okay, well. These cards both kind of suck right now, but I guess Quick Welder makes it easier for them to double spell, so just bounce that. Double spell anyway, because they top decked the land. Alright. Well, I mean, that makes me confident I bounced the right card, because if I bounced Captain, they could have spent 3 on that and 4 on that. Well, I guess it would be the same way either way, right? Okay, if I bounced Captain and they didn't top deck a land, they still could have done the Rambler here. No, they couldn't have done both. Okay, I guess they could have done both either way unless I bounced Quick Welder and they didn't hit a land. Wait, I don't know. My brain is short-circuiting. I don't know why. Yeah, 6-5's a problem. I think I just need the 6-3 to trade into that on blocks, I guess. I mean, Harrier's beef enough. I can just keep getting Sky Ray damage in. Block with everybody else. I should have played a land here. I didn't realize I hadn't played land for turn yet. They are at 14, and this is 6 damage, so we could be trying to race bet. I mean, with a hand like this, I really don't think I should be getting particularly aggressive. Pathcruiser is just pretty weak right now. They could tap their entire board to crew it up. Wreck Remover? We're at that point of the game, we're playing to the board enough, I would rather just cast that. And have another random nonsense blocker here, I think. I'm at 14, I can take the Pathcruiser hit if they want to tap their whole board to crew it, so I'm just going to slam in. Does Captain crew with extra power? Oh, Jesus. That's unfortunate. That's a pretty big punt. God dang it. Yeah, I just haven't played against the Captain enough. It's been just so unimportant in every game I've ever played it with that I've never had that come up, that it crews with the extra power. I mean, I probably just punted the game there. If I didn't do that, we'd be in a really firm lead here. That's really frustrating. I'm still doing solid. I don't think our position is bad. That draw's pretty good too. Man, they'd be at like 5 life right now if I didn't do that. Oops. Another one. Okay, Path Cruises are actually relevant here because Cloudspire Captain, which I completely forgot. I guess I could have flooded the Captain, forced them to draw into another creature to do something. It's a terrible draw. At least I'm almost completely out of lands in the deck here. We're only on 15 lands here. We hit 10 in the top 20, so there's only 5 in the next 20. Should be pretty gassy in a good way. Pretty gassy draws coming up, as in like we should be drawing straight gas. Canyon Vaulter to give the Pathcruiser flying. Alright. We definitely punted this game away. This could have been an easy win, and now it's an easy loss. Tragic. But it was actually all on purpose, because we finally lost the first game of a best-of-3 round, so that we can just turn it around and win the next 2. Just watch. Now they can crew Pathcruiser even without Captain, so I gotta flood the Pathcruiser. And then I can block Vaulter, take 5. I'm still jamming here because if they do draw removal, we're basically going to lose anyway because I'll be down to 1 creature. If they don't draw removal, they can't attack with everybody, or I crack back for lethal. Refueler is a really gross draw, so I definitely don't crack back for lethal because they've got another blocker, plus they draw another card off Refueler to dig farther. Just the 1 damage? Just the 1 damage, alright. Marauding Mako. I can't attack here, I'm dead. One blocker there. Blocker there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have to cast Mako or gamble on drawing something relevant. I could draw 3 cycling cards in a row. I mean, when keeping the Mako, the only line that I have is play the Mako, chump the 1/1 onto there, bounce over there, eat that, take 3, go to 2 life with only 2 creatures left. I feel like that being the best line is bad enough to just gamble here and just try to cheese off these draws. I've got a lightning strike to draw into as well. So I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cyclers left. 10 out of the 18. It's a non-zero chance that we chain into lethal here. I'm just gonna gamble it, whatever. I mean, at this point, like, it's also valuable to just lose the first game towards the achievement. I will factor that in. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that works too. I guess there's no justice in the world, and I'll just punt and gamble my way into victory as you do. The slow play too, that's horrible. That it took so long to make that play too. Because, I mean, it was such a gamble I really had to consider, but Jesus Christ, that's gotta feel awful for opponent. You just see your opponent just think tank, go for the blind cycle, Draconautics Engineer lol. Yikes. Alright, well, no justice in this world, but also no achievements for me, so that balances things out. That's my price to pay for punting into just maximum gamble auto win. Yeah, I mean, we take those. I like the Spell Pierce in this matchup. They've got multiple cruisers. They've got a 5-mana Ramble, a 5-mana Engine, 6-mana Detention Chariot. I really think there's tons of huge mana cards in this deck to Spell Pierce. So I'm going to run those over the Stallouts again, I think. Stallout, again, was particularly insane against the Speed Demon, but I don't think the other 99% of the time it's actually a particularly good card. It's just going to get cycled, and that's all it will ever do. Yeah, I'm going to drop those and run the Spell Pierces here. Goodbye, Stallouts. Hello. Round number 3. Game number 2. There's the Spell Pierce, the Engineer. That's going to be a keeper. Turn 1 Scrap Compactor. They dodged the Spell Pierce. Diversion Unit can counter the Spell Pierce if they have the extra mana up. If I run out Engineer, it just dies to Scrap Compactor. So I think we have to use that as a 6-drop, which makes the sand really slow, sadly. But because I'm going to be cycling cards here anyway, looking for better early plays, I can at least stop a little bit of damage here. I guess I could hold up Spell Pierce in case they have exactly Path Cruiser as their 3-mana play, but that plays a lot worse if they just play a creature, or if they play nothing. Okay, so cycling Ironclad, for sure. I probably should have cycled an Ironclad here before I played the land, so if I top-decked a mountain, I could play the other mountain and cycle the other Ironclad instead of Wreck Remover. Wreck Remover might actually be relevant here, because it can block without getting crewed. Because, yeah, I feel like I'm still going to cycle Ironclad. Even though I do have the mana up to cycle a 2-mana card plus a Spell Pierce, I would rather just cycle the card that seems less relevant on board right now. Crash and Burn's the draw. I guess I cycle both. Land 4 is really that important if I miss on the first cycle. Cool. Land 4 is here. Nimblethopterist. This is going to be really nice. Half of this card is going to trade into Scrap Compactor, probably the Thopter. And then the other half sticks around. Oh, all right, well. There's going to be a straight up 2-for-1 here because they have to kill this Thopter to attack with Diversion Unit now, so. Really good work done from Thopterist. Seems great in this matchup. One more mana till I can happily play Engineer. So I could play a 4-drop, just a 4-mana 3/4 here and still have Spell Pierce up. I don't mind it. If Auto Tapper doesn't want to do that though. Pass turn. Path Cruiser? Okay, if they want to Diversion Unit my Spell Pierce, that's still pretty good work done by it. Alright, cool. Their board is completely empty, and they are completely tapped out. And we are good to go over here. I guess they have 1 mana up, the Path Cruiser land. Let's see. Nothing good in their graveyard for Wreck Remover, but I'm still just rolling creatures out here when I don't want to play my Engineer. I can cycle Ironclad as well towards land 6. Pathmaker can find the creature to crew it here. So they're definitely going to have a blocker up this turn. If they grab an artifact with mana value 2 or less. Artifact creature with mana value 2 or less. Yeah, Sundial. So Sundial can crew the Pathmaker, which can crew the Path Cruiser. So no matter what I blow up with Crash and Burn, something's blocking this turn. Unless I... Well, no, even if I wait to crew till they activate the crew, they could tap this, activate the crew ability. Oh, wait, hold up. Because this can destroy a vehicle, I can actually get around the block here. Right, they tap Sundial, the crew ability goes on the stack. In response to the crew ability being on the stack, I then Crash and Burn, destroy target vehicle. Feels nice. Yeah, because I get 7 damage in for doing that, and then I can still trip up something else soon. Fabricator's an interesting draw, though. I could Fabricator and trip up and just be attacking in the sky right now. And that's also perfectly fine. Still have a Crash and Burn and a trip up left to get things out of the sky. I don't know. I want to jam for 1,000,000 right now. I'm feeling it. Aggro. I forgot this card triggers off attacks. Cool. Destroy target vehicle. Boop. They're down to 9. They do have the tune-up. Oh, that's so sad. We had like the Wreck Remover combo against the tune-up, but like I can't exile the Pathmaker because I don't get to blow it up till after the attack trigger to stop them from blocking. Yeah, tune-up Pathmaker's really good here. I would have made trip up the better play. They would have at least have to fully tap out for it. Plus the Pathmaker's a permanent blocker now. Dang. All right, well, we're immediately over on the flying game plan. Shoot. This is fine, though. I have Fabricator with Cyclers. I have Draconautics Engineer for a 4/4 flyer as well. I'm going to have to make some chumps to buy the time I need to kill them in the sky, but I think I can do it. Especially if we get 7 mana for Engineer to spit out the 4/4 and haste it out. That will be super helpful. Okay, I can either play a Fabricator, cycle a trip up, get a Thopter, or play a Draconautics Engineer and a non-hasty 4/4 flyer. I think the 2-turn kill is more likely playing Fabricator, cycling trip up. Because then next turn I get to crew up the Fabricator plus haste out the dragon. Oops. Wrong thing. If I top deck a land, it's perfect. What's in these next 2 draws? Okay, I didn't hit it there. But we have mega lethal if I hit a land next turn. And if I don't, I still have 6 damage on board here. Tap out for Hole Drifter. I guess it's not tapping out. They still have 3 mana up. The Guideline Matrix can also crew the Hole Drifter for 2 mana. So now they have a flying blocker. I have the trip up for it, but obviously I can't trip it up if I'm spending all my mana on Draconautics Engineer, getting a flyer there. So we definitely don't have a turn 2 kill anymore since they hit the flyer. Their deck has some raw power over there. Grab the Wreck Remover, because that's big enough to crew any of their vehicles. They are tapped out now from any removals, so I'll go ahead and crew the Fabricator. Make their attacks a little harder. I might as well. And now Wreck Remover isn't held up on blocks either. Oh, they don't have Guideline Matrix up. That's actually kind of big. But they have a lot of power to crew stuff with still. Oh, that is bold. Tap a bunch of creatures here. Now I could be getting some damage in on the ground. They're going to have a single blocker up? If I just take all this damage, they block one single card, which would be a 4/4. They take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I kill them off of top deck land if I don't chump here. So I'm going to not chump here. Just go for the top deck land kill. I could probably still even chump one of these and have the kill. Top deck land is killed. Is it not? We go... They have one blocker. I go Engineer. I go Dragon. I go Haste. I go Crew Fabricator with Engineer, because that's the only creature that can't attack this turn. Haste. Crew. We went for some really risky, really greedy lines in this final round, but they all just panned out for us. Maximum lethal. That's a 6-0 traditional draft. We didn't lose a single game, which is pretty cool. But it means I still got to work on that achievement. At least we got a ton of value here. Whole bunch of gems to spend on some more traditional drafts. Grab 2,500 gems, 6 packs, and 2 playing points. Let's go. Yeah, self-explanatory deck here. Just a really great blue-red cycling deck. It was pretty open in our pod, getting the Mako and double Skyray. Started red because we got the best red card in the format. We saw how well that played out in multiple games. This was winning games all by itself, as was the Fabricator. So really did need some very powerful rares to really push us into this color pair. But these are great reasons to be in the color pair. And once you're there, you can find some other synergies that can do a decent bit of work without the rares. But honestly, the vast majority of these games were won by these 2 cards, as you expect, as those are super powerful cards. So yeah, really happy with this deck. Cannot be unhappy when you don't lose a single game. We take those. Pretty happy with cutting all those lands. Even though there were some games where I was like wanting to hit like 6th, 7th land and stuff like that, there were a lot of games where I cycled so many cards that I was hitting land clumps because I was doing so much cycling, where running that lower land count helps a lot. And I feel like these kind of sack lands also help a lot in the cycling decks. They feel like maybe a little more important in this kind of deck than most because of, again, how many times you're going to be cycling your non-land cards to trigger all of your other stuff and just hitting more lands off of them. So yeah, cool deck, great run. The stall out on the Speed Demon was beautiful. That was fantastic. There's a lot of fun stuff today, and huge prize out in the end. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in a recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.